Welcome to this explainer. Over the past century, the American presidency has evolved immensely. We've weathered world wars, economic collapse, technological revolutions, and the backgrounds of the leaders themselves, they've dramatically shifted. Yet, the ritual of actually assuming this immense power is anchored by this profound continuity, captured purely in spoken word. Today, we're going to analyze this historic ritual based strictly on the historical audio transcripts spanning nearly a century, literally from Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933 all the way to Donald John Trump in 2025. It's an incredible journey through time, revealing both the absolute rigidity of the law and the fascinating variations of the actual humans delivering it. Okay, let's just anchor ourselves right out of the gate with these exact 35 words. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. This single sentence serves as the unchanging mandate across almost a century of shifting political winds and global crises. Whether the world was at war, stuck in a devastating depression, or riding high on a tech boom, speaking these specific 35 words was the mandatory gateway to the highest office in the land. It's absolutely crucial to remember that regardless of the era, the political party, or the individuals standing up there on that stage, this foundational text remains the static anchor of the transfer of power. In a century defined by rapid evolution and constant flux, the rigidity of this text provides a deeply solemn grounding. It is for sure the ultimate equalizer for every single incoming leader, forcing vastly different people into the exact same constitutional promise. So what are the consistent elements here? Well, alongside the constitutional text, almost a century of audio reveals a highly patterned structure to this ritual. First, the incoming president always states their full name. Think, I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Second, they deliver that core 35-word promise. And third, we find a really distinct element not technically found in the Constitution itself, a highly consistent religious conclusion. In almost every single instance across the century, we hear the Chief Justice prompt the incoming president with the words, "So help you God," which is universally answered with, "So help me God." It's a fascinating addition that has become an unshakable part of the spoken ritual. But okay, before those famous 35 words are even spoken, the transcripts reveal some really fascinating variations in the setup. The titles used to prompt these incoming leaders give us a brilliant little snapshot of who these men were in their fleeting final moments before ascending to power. Categorizing these immediate past job titles really highlights the evolving pathways to power over the past century. We hear Gerald R. Ford addressed as Mr. Vice President. We hear Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush all addressed as governor. Barack Obama, he's addressed as senator. And for those taking their second-term oaths, like Richard Nixon or Bill Clinton, they're simply addressed as Mr. President. It brilliantly highlights the final moments of their previous roles before they officially step into the presidency. Now here's where the audio transcripts get incredibly compelling. We have the solemn, rigid constitutional text, but we're relying on fallible humans to deliver it. Often they're outside in the freezing cold, battling nerves in front of millions of people. And sometimes that rigidity collides head-on with unscripted reality. The audio doesn't lie. It captures every stumble, every nervous breath, and every misplaced word. This perfectly illustrates the live pressure of the moment. We have the exact constitutional script. Faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. But then, we look at what was actually spoken and captured in the transcript during Barack Hussein Obama's first swearing-in 2009. Execute the office of President to the United States faithfully. We can pinpoint exactly where the word order derailed. It's a fascinating collision of a centuries-old script with the incredibly high stakes of live delivery. And, he wasn't the only one to slightly veer off script. Take Lyndon Baines Johnson. Instead of saying the exact phrase office of president, the audio clearly captures him saying that I will faithfully execute the office of the presidency of the United States. It's a tiny, unscripted anomaly, an alteration of phrasing that technically isn't the letter of the law, but hey, it was captured forever in the historical record. So, when we aggregate all these little anomalies, a profound pattern of humanity emerges. We've got the flubbed word orders and altered phrasing we just talked about. We even have repetitious audio capturing pure nerves, like George W. Bush stumbling over his own name with an accidental and honestly rather charming, "Hi, George Walker Bush," right at the start. What you should really take away from this is that despite the heavily practiced nature of this ritual, these are entirely live, deeply human moments. Beneath the heavy coat of statecraft, these are just people, feeling the immense weight of the moment. Yet, despite these tiny human variations, the core of the ceremony remains completely intact. The stumbles don't break the chain. When you step back and look at the whole century of transcripts, you're struck by the sheer weight of this repetitive cycle. It's an unbroken historic chain that binds together wildly different men with wildly different backgrounds and political philosophies across a century of profound American history. Just think about the names spanning these audio transcripts. We're going from FDR in the 1930s, through the mid-century challenges faced by Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and LBJ, through the late 20th century with Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Clinton, and into our modern era of evolution and upheaval with George W. Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, all the way up to Donald John Trump in 2025. It is a relentless, unbroken march of history, and every single one of them had to pass through the exact same linguistic doorway. Which brings us right back to this. 35. That's it. Just 35 words. It is literally incredible to realize that this single small number represents the exact, unyielding promise that links all of those vastly different leaders together. It's the great equalizer of American executive power. You can be a governor, a senator, a vice president, or a businessman, but you absolutely must speak these 35 words to sit behind that desk. Because history doesn't stop, right? The chain is going to continue to link forward. As you look at the structure, the humanity, and the awesome evolution surrounding this ritual over the past century, you have to ask yourself, who will be the next to speak these 35 words? Thank you for joining me for this explainer.